This evening, we have great pleasure in welcoming Hossam from Rebellion Games. This is a talk I've been wanting to hear for quite some time about how the computer games industry works. Something that I don't know very much about, but I think I probably ought to, because I think we're probably going to hear about how large that industry is and how important it is to us. So over to you, Hossam.
Thank you, Simon. Um, Good evening, everyone. I'm Hossam. I'm Egyptian, by the way. I started my journey back in 2013. Out of curiosity, I was very curious how they make this, how they made that. Whenever I was playing games, so I stopped enjoying, and I was more of a curious guy, looking to get into the industry. I started back in 2013. Not all of these years were professional work. I started as a freelancer first. Then I did some commercials, film, and then finally did games. And here I am. I've been with Rebellion for 2.5 years so far, and we have created already amazing games like Sniper Elite 5, which was released last year. Today we have three topics. One of them is how game development works, all the different fields and roles, and how they work together to craft the game in the end. The second topic will be related more to people who are looking to get into the industry and are applying for jobs, um, common beginner mistakes to avoid, and so. And the last one is a direct comparison between film industry, commercials, and finally the game industry. So let's start with our first topic today, which is how the game industry works and what are the different rules. So I've divided rules into, you can say, two or three. Here we have the pure technical part. Here we have the artistic part. And this is um, some rules that combine both of them, the technical and the artistic. And finally, we have the creative side. This is our fourth rule. So starting with the artistic side, the first rule is the character artist. This is the person responsible for digital sculpting the character, like here we can see. This is a software called ZBrush. And after that process, we move to UV unwrapping, which allow the artist to colorize and do the texturing process. And finally, the rendering, which is lightening the character and see how realistic it will look. Depends on the style. Some people prefer the cartoonish look, some people prefer the realistic look. So that's the character artist. We have the environment artist. It's very similar to the character artist. It does the same, create the model, topology, UV unwrapping, and then texturing, but they also do materials. As we see here, if you have like a road or an asphalt material, they also create that stuff. Some advanced artists use photogrammetry. They can scan real faces in the world and then convert them to digital assets, like here. We have animation, which is many people's favorite. Um, so animators will receive a puppet, consider it like a puppet, and they have different points. We call them controls. You can grab that one control and start posing the character, and every keyframe is a pose. You start at frame 1, you set up a pose. At frame 10, you set up another pose, and so on. That sequence will create the animation from different poses. Yeah. And then we have GUI. These are designers who are responsible for creating like the patterns, the achievements in the game, how like different talents look. So yeah, they are more responsible for the UI and the interface of the game. And finally, we have visual effects or VFX. We call them the wizards because they create some effects like fire, pyro, water simulation, smoke, destruction, all that kind of stuff. So that is the pure artistic side. Here we have, this is what combines both the artistic and the technical side. Production. These are the head of the project. Producers are the head of the project. They need to be aware of everything so they can assign tasks or maybe have catch-ups or stand-ups with the team and also time tracking for milestones and sprints. We have technical art. These guys were artists in the past, but they mixed their knowledge with coding. So now they can also create tools to facilitate the work of other artists that are pure artists. We have technical animation, which is my job. We have a diverse rule. We are the guys who prepare characters after we receive them from artists to animation. Like we set up the bones, which is called rigging. Like here, this will move like that. We put another joint here. It will move the upper arm and so on. This is part of our job. We also do something called skinning, which is this bone will influence only this area. It shouldn't move any other like parts from other area. And we also create tools. We mainly use Python programming language to automate most of our work and do this. Some very good technical animators will create a button, do my job. Not really, but you know what I mean, like try to automate as much as they can and avoid repetitive, boring tasks. We also act as a bridge between art and animation. So yeah, we are kind of like IT help desk, but for animation department. Then we have technical direction. This is the person responsible for technical art and technical animation. They are the most knowledgeable guy in the company when it comes to coding and debugging. And then we have QA, which is the funniest job ever. Imagining spending your time playing games and getting paid. Yeah, not really. You have to know how to write a detailed report when you encounter a bug. So people can start fixing these bugs in the next release of the game. So yeah, it's a fun job, but yeah, something like that. Whenever you encounter something that's not looking right, you write a detailed report. Like where do you exactly fall in the ground, at what time, and so on. And moving to the pure technical part. Yeah, that's a mistake. Yeah, IT. I guess everyone knows what IT does. They fix hardware and software for anyone. So if you encounter any issue, whether it's hardware or software, should create a ticket for IT and they will be on it.
Sam, we have to project to the back of the room a little bit now with your voice.
Sorry, say again?
You're a bit quiet online at the back of the room. You're able to project.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Yeah. And we have coding. These guys are doing only coding, like they are very specific when it comes to coding. They usually know more than one programming language, like Python, C++, and many more. And we have AI, which is the newest field. Everyone knows the power of AI at these days and how it can help you and automate a lot of stuff. You can also implement AI behavior in your game. So like NPCs, non-player controlled characters, can interact with the player in a more realistic way. Engine tech. This is a unique job because at Rebellion we have our own engine, like it's an in-house engine. Other very well-known engines like Unreal Engine, they already have a lot of tech and stuff in their engine. So the engine programmer guy is the one responsible for implementing what is missing in the engine. And that is the creative side. My favorite is the character concept artist. These people sketch and then hand over this to the 3D artist to convert that from 2D into 3D digital sculpt. We have the same job, but for environment, so they can create, like the environment artist can create exactly what you see here that was originally in 2D. And level design, these guys are really creative. They can bash like different assets, some rocks, some trees, foliage, and they create a scene out of these assets. And they are also responsible for different events in the level. Like here, the character will avoid a jump scare or so. So yeah. Narrative. These are the people who write the story of the game and the different events, and also the conversations between different characters, and yeah, parts of the story. And we have audio, Foley, SFX, music and score, voice acting, and haptics. Yeah. UX, user experience. These days, they tend to gather more information when it comes to like the interface or how players react with the game. Also, I'm not sure how to say it, but have you ever heard of like motion sickness when you play a game? Yeah, these guys start working on like implementations to avoid things like motion sickness in game. And yeah, that's it for the game industry. Anyone has any questions or yeah?
May I ask the size of individual team,
Mhm.
comparably speaking, the size of IT team versus the size of communication team versus the artist and
Mhm.
writing team between artist and artist? Which team is kind of the biggest?
The biggest
Right.
animation team. Animation team is the biggest team, and we have multiple teams for animation. Like for every project, it has a specific team, but other jobs like technical animation, it's only one team. So yeah.
I see.
Mhm.
The top one is animation and then
Yeah.
followed by
Art,
Art.
whether it's environment or character.
What's the typical timeframe from the project initiation to actually first release of a game?
It depends on like the quality of the game and
Right.
how big that project is. Like for AAA games, which is the biggest scale for a game, they tend to take years to finish from start to finish.
Okay,
Like 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
Okay. And what's the team size anymore for the all the people?
Maybe 200.
200 people, 3 years.
Yeah.
That's
Mm-hmm.
amazing.
Mm-hmm.
We need to repeat the questions for the online people, so I'll do that.
Yes, please.
Okay. So, do we have any more questions at this point? Yeah, go ahead. So what style of animation is used most commonly?
At Rebellion, we do both cartoonish style of animation, games like EG2, but we are mainly focused on shooter games, which require more realistic animation. Yes, we.
If was the technical artist
Mhm.
or coding or whatever, do you also either someone studying about the artistic side, or do you have to
Yes.
have some skill on artistic side?
So they usually start as an artist
Mm.
and then they develop more knowledge when it comes to coding and programming. So instead of spending like a week doing a certain task and every day you do the same thing, they start creating their own tools to automate part of their work or maybe help other people, maybe juniors. They can create tools for juniors to do a certain task instead of wasting time. Yes,
Is there any regulation the industry have to fulfill in terms of the game that we produce, ethical wise or
yes.
age wise, all that
Yes.
kind of stuff?
For example, that was back in another studio. We had a character that was like walking on four limbs. Um, it didn't look nice because people were trying to avoid anything that might look like a disability, you know what I mean? Like try to avoid these things. Mm.
Lots of questions coming in online.
Okay,
Do
right.
you want me to read some out?
Yes,
Yes,
please.
please.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got a question from Matt Philpott. Do you see the advent of AI image creation and AI 3D modeling impacting some of the creative roles, e.g. the concept art role?
Concept art. For now, it hasn't really taken over, like not fully taken over. But you can get a good starting point if you are using UI, but that's not enough. Yeah.
There's some more. Simon.
Yeah,
Do you want
please
to-
keep going. Yeah.
Thank you, Sam. Sorry, my screen's just hi, Hossam. Very interesting stuff. Thanks for sharing. How much automated testing do you have in the games industry? I've heard it's mostly manual. How do the game engines work? So automated testing, how much automated testing is there?
So it should be divided into two different sections. One is done by tools, and the other is done by QA. Like we have a department for QA that should test manually. So it's a mixture of both.
The mixture. Okay. And he's asking, how do the game engines work? So that's obviously related to testing as well.
Right. I believe at this point, all of them are the same. Like it's very competitive.
Yes.
So if any feature is missing in one engine, maybe next month it will be implemented. You know what I mean? So yeah, they are all the same. Even when we hire people that have been working on Unreal Engine, they can easily shift their knowledge to our engine, which is made in-house and different.
Okay. Are there more from the audience?
Any more questions from the room? Yeah. Yes, one right at the back.
I mean, given that application and software development is stressful and difficult enough, this seems to be like that on speed. How do you control the process? Who sits over it, and how do you put quality assurance around it?
So how do you control the software development process and the QA around it in a very
Right.
stressful environment?
So every department has a lead and maybe a head. If it's a bigger department, they have their own head of department. And through regular meetings, they discuss where we stand. Maybe for animation department, today we should work on locomotion, which is how the character walk in the game. Maybe they don't like this, they give their feedback, and then we start working on it. So they don't wait till the end of the project. No, they should be like regular feedback.
That's more here.
I'll take one on the front and then,
Thank you. Just following up on the same question raised by the gentleman here, for a project that you develop over a 3-year time period with 200 people, roughly what's the budget look like?
what does the budget look like?
I'm
for
not
a
sure.
200 person every year?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like maybe that question should be someone from finance, but yeah, yeah.
They make a profit.
Jeff, you had a question from
Yeah,
online.
we've got a second year student, computer science second year. And they're asking, what sort of experience would you recommend for somebody in their second year? I'm
Second
guessing
year.
maybe work experience.
Focus on self-learning, and then I'll talk later about people who are looking to get into the industry
Okay.
and some advice for like graduates.
Okay, so that's that question about
Yeah.
how to get, what to study is probably going to be covered in what you're going to say
Yeah,
later on.
But you should stay online.
Yes, please.
We've got some more.
Yes, I think there was another one in the room there, yes.
Yeah, I was just sort of wondering, for a game like Sniper Elite Series, that's quite, it's sort of based on kind of real events to some extent, sort of World War II.
World War II, yeah.
Yeah. Is there quite a lot of work in the sort of field research historians? Is there quite a lot of field research?
Yep. Actually, we go to the War Museum and scan, like as I mentioned before, some artists use devices to scan like real weapons or a vehicle that was a part of the World War.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Sam, can you say more about script design and storytelling? If yes, is there an ethical code? That's an interesting.
Storytelling. It's not what I do, so my knowledge is not like the best in this field. So yeah, sorry.
There's another one here. The visual impact is now extraordinary. How do you balance visual detail and speed of processing?
Is it related to optimization? I'm not sure if I understood that correctly.
No, I would guess it's a question about comparing your marketplace. On the one hand, you're demanding high power processors, but
Right.
you don't want to exclude a lot of your marketplace. So how does your company make that sort of decision?
If I understood that correctly, is it when you ship a game for different platforms like
well,
consoles?
it's more that you could, if you're looking at the graphics, you could put more and more detail in,
Right,
but you
yeah.
need more and more processing power to be able
Right,
to
yeah.
to display it. So
So
how do you make that trade-off?
yeah, if that game is being shipped to the PC, you get more freedom. But if you are looking to like ship the game to other consoles like Xbox, Nintendo, and so you start optimizing these assets to have slightly lower quality, but still look good and can work fine without a lot of lag or stuttering.
So you actually compromise on the design.
Yeah, for some platforms because their hardware is limited. Yeah.
My question is, how does a game start? Let's say somebody had a game idea, and they like to pitch it. What would they need to come up with? Is it a storyline, concept art? Like, what would they have to demonstrate?
So this was about how does the process of creating a game start? How do you start it off?
It usually starts from the higher management of the company, like executives and producers. And when they like, I want to create a shooter game, I want to create like a football game. That's the main idea. And from there, they can start looking at more ideas. I want that game to be based on maybe the First World War or the Second World War. And then they keep doing that in the background while working on other projects, so they don't lose time. You know what I mean? Like,
That answer, is that what you wanted? Or is it more something more specific?
uh-huh.
Yeah.
You have to convince the top somehow.
So the top start, and then when they have a clear idea, they start presenting that to other departments, and then we go from there.
How would they present it though?
It depends. Like, it depends. Like, if they have rough sketches or they have prepared a PowerPoint presentation with all the ideas, what they need in the game, the scene, and the time.
How do people progress and develop their careers within your organization? Like moving teams, different disciplines?
Yeah, that's a good question
So
because
this is about how career
Yeah.
development works within the
that's a
organization.
good question because last year I worked on this. Every company should have a career progression track that you can look from time to time, like and compare it to this person. Like today, if someone from my team came and told me, Hossam, I deserve a promotion, I can book a meeting with that person and then, hey, your Python skills stand here. Our minimum is the following. And then we compare. If that person matches that criteria, they will be promoted. Otherwise, we can give them some time to develop a certain area.
Go ahead.
Just sort of one other thing I was wondering. I'm vaguely familiar with ZBrush for the sculpting side of things, but I was sort of wondering, what is currently sort of being used in the industry in terms of the software for the UV
Software for UV unwrapping. You can do it everywhere, to be honest. You can do it in Maya, you can do it in Houdini, you can do it in 3ds Max. So yeah, these are the most common ones. Mhm.
And on the front.
Where do you see the future of technology from the hardware's perspective of the games? Or do you think it's still gonna be primarily PC mobile based, or do you think more money's gonna be spent on the VR world with like Apple Vision coming in?
Yeah, I believe VC will always be the priority.
Okay.
Yeah, because if you have a PC, you can customize. Like maybe you don't like your GPU, you can buy another one. Consoles, they are very limited when it comes to customization, and same for mobile phones. So yeah, you have to buy a new one. Like you cannot replace a certain piece.
Yeah.
More online.
Yeah, we've got a few. There's
Yeah,
quite a
go
few
ahead.
coming in online.
Yeah.
There's one I'm quite interested in this one. Has AI been employed in the games development process?
Not fully, but as R&D. Some companies might be ahead, like yeah, they have some good projects for research and development, but it hasn't taken over yet. Mhm.
There's a practical one here, actually. Are all the teams in one room? I'm guessing this is a question about rebellion. Are all teams in one room? Do they work remotely? And how do you do brainstorming?
So, no, they are not in the same room, and it also depends on your contract. Some people are working full-time remotely, others are hybrid, which I work hybrid at the moment. Others go to the office every day. We also have some meeting rooms. If you want to book a meeting with other departments, you can go to the meeting room and brainstorm together.
Okay. So are you using any specific tools for brainstorming remotely?
No, I cannot talk about that.
Any more, Jeff?
Yeah, well, they're streaming you.
You want to keep going, or do you want to go and give us a
Maybe
bit more?
maybe we can move to the second topic and
Yes,
then we can
let's do
continue
that and then
Q&A.
take a few more
Yeah.
questions again. So we'll hear a bit more from Hossam and then. Yep.
See the mouse. When I full screen, yeah, fine now. Yeah. So that presentation is about common beginner mistakes and things to avoid when applying for a job. We have 9 main points that will kill your application and get you disqualified. Here I have only the keyword, but I'll go in more depth for each one of them. Job description, long job, research, applications, entry-level opportunities, portfolio, personal projects, doing everything is good, but, and finally, persistence. Um, I wish we can remove that. Um, sorry for that. Simon, is it okay if we can continue within this view? Because when I first view, the text is hidden behind that bar.
Ah, right. Yes, okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
So it's pretty unreadable now, but
Mhm. Yeah,
That's
hidden now. Yeah. The first one is not reading the job description properly. Make sure you always read the job description properly and look for the required skills and question if you can fulfill the responsibility and identify the necessary tools for the skills for the job. So many times when people apply for a job, they don't read the job description correctly and they apply anyway. So my advice here is if you don't have one of these required skills, for example, if we have a job that requires a certain level of Python programming and you don't have that one, take your time to study this because it's essential. Like you cannot skip it. To be a technical animator, you need to know Python and so. And by the way, every time you get an interview, even if you get rejected, like don't get demotivated because you get more insight what the market demand is and the research. So when a company asks you about if you know their projects or not, they are not trying to test your ability to memorize history. They are checking if you are curious or interested or not. This is one of the most common beginner mistakes we get. People apply for the wrong job, like animators apply for technical animation without mentioning that in their cover letter. Um, a week ago, we had many people disqualified because they applied for our job without stating that in their cover letter. If they only mentioned that I'm looking for an opportunity in animation, we could have redirected them to the animation department instead of instantly disqualifying them. So yeah, do yourself a favor and be specific when applying for a job. Don't apply for the wrong job unless you state that in your cover letter and you are looking for the correct job. Yeah, generic application. You keep sending the same application for every company when applying for a job without actually tailoring this. And make sure you highlight your strengths and directly compare them to the company needs in the job advert. Like, hey, I've done Python before. Here is what I've done. This is how it improved my pipeline and workflow, and so on. Yeah, ignoring entry-level opportunities. Many beginners aim for high-level position, missing a lot of opportunities to grow their experience. Yeah, don't apply for the mid-level position if you just graduated, because yeah. And of course, poor portfolio presentation. And there is one excuse that we hear a lot. I'll move to that later. Your portfolio should include only your best work, and it's an entry to it's what brings the interview to you. Like, first, we look at your CV. If your CV is good enough, we can then look at your portfolio. And if you show in your portfolio that you have done the required work for that job, we can move you to the interview. So yeah, every time we ask people to show their work, they will say it's under NDA. I've signed NDA, I cannot show that. So they end up not showing everything in their interview or showing some projects that are not relevant. Some people may show modeling projects. We don't want that. We want animation related projects. So yeah, if you have really something under NDA, you can work on personal projects. We really appreciate personal projects. Keep learning, which answers one of the questions. Keep learning, do personal projects, and you can have something to show in your portfolio. Yeah, personal project. Never neglect them. The difference comes from self-directed learning. We prefer candidates that keep doing self-learning because they show great ability that if they join us, we can mold their experience and they can grow really fast. Another beginner mistake, which is doing everything. Doing everything is very, very good. I've done this before, like from character modeling, texturing, animation, technical animation, rigging, rendering. It's very good to understand all of these uh, because it allows you to understand the needs of other departments and work with them without any issues. But the question here is, are you specialized enough? If you know modeling, animation, rendering, but you're not good enough in any of them, you're not doing yourself a favor because the company will always pick the best modeler among the candidates, the best animator, the best like technical animator. We don't want someone who does everything but not good, like we need someone that does one thing but very good and specialized enough. Yeah, and here's one. This is a quote by Samuel Habakoti, which is one of my team, senior technical animator. Yeah. The company will choose who best fits the role. And of course, be persistent. As I mentioned, every time, even if you get rejected, you get more insights about what the company needs and what the market standards are. Yeah, you keep doing this, you keep learning. Before I actually traveled to the UK, I applied for 5 different positions. I got rejected in all of them. But every time I opened my notes, they asked about soft IK. What the hell is soft IK? I don't know that. So I started learning soft IK. And then in the second interview, they asked me soft IK. Yes, I know that one. But then they hit me in the face with another one that I don't know. So yeah, every time, sometimes you get rejected, but don't get motivated. Keep trying, and at some point, you will have enough knowledge to land the job. So yeah. Yeah, that's the end of beginner mistakes. Any questions?
Right. Thanks very much. I would make a comment that there's a lot in there that is not entirely specific to the games industry because it's true in everything.
Yeah.
And number one, read the job description. Is advice for everybody, including if you're applying to be a fellow of the British Computer Society. Because you'd be amazed at how many people don't read the specification and what they're supposed to tell us. But yes, any questions? Okay.
What inspired you to work in this industry?
That's a good question. Anyone knows a game called World of Warcraft? Yeah, I played that game when I was young, and I started creating mods, like custom mods. And in order to learn that, I started searching the internet how to create a mod for this game. And yeah, I was very curious, and then I learned how to like create different characters, like different models, and replace the original character in the game. And then I wanted new animations, so I learned how to do animation. I wanted new look, new skin, so I learned how to create different textures and so on. As I mentioned, you usually start learning a lot of things, but at some point you have to specialize and pick one only.
Are there any questions coming in online at this point, Jack?
Yeah, I've got a whole load. Shall I bring them up to the front?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's another question from Matt Philpott. What are your thoughts about free to play with shops and the more traditional full play options? Does this affect how the game industry is designed?
Yes. Let's be clear. The purpose of every game is to make profit, but don't make it too obvious and let the player hit the game. Because I played the game, I will not say the name, but for many years, like 10 years, and I was very good at that game, one of the best in the server. But then they decided to convert it into a pay-to-win game. Like you cannot progress, you cannot upgrade your weapons unless you pay a lot of cash. So I became from the best in the server to the newest in the server because I didn't want to spend like hundreds of dollars every month on the game. So yeah, it's fine to profit from the game, but with balance. Like don't make it, don't let like your player base hit the game because it's too much. Yeah.
It's a tricky one to answer this one. What is the competitor you most admire? So competitor to Rebellion. Who do you want to work for next? Don't answer that.
Yeah, I cannot answer this one.
No, fair enough. We put you on the spot.
Yeah.
Oh, is there a market for games that teach collaborative solutions to climate change? I know this was explored over 10 years ago. So climate change, or it's using the wisdom of masses to solve problems via games. I think this is where this one's going. Is anybody out there working in that way?
I'm not sure. That's that's far from my knowledge.
Okay.
I think that was actually part of Jason Kingsley's presentation at the Oxford Books a while ago.
Yeah.
Rebellion is definitely doing that stuff,
Okay.
but this guy doesn't.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds really interesting. So, Jason Kingsley's talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'll see if I can type that in at some point. Do you think holographic gaming is practical and scalable?
Holographic gaming?
Yeah. Does that make sense to you, that question?
Not entirely sure.
Could you instead of having a flat display that you're looking at, could you be projecting holograms, which then the player would interact with?
I believe it will be a unique experience and also a very enjoyable experience, but
Okay, you've answered the next
Yeah,
question
yeah.
there. If it does go in that way, it sounds like it's going to be more interesting. Okay.
We do have another question from the audience.
Yeah.
Just wondering, in terms of the interview process, what the companies are looking for, would you say the companies are they looking out for people with the academic experience, or do you think they would sort of still count the people if they have sort of demonstrable industry experience or personal experience?
So this was the question for the interview process. Is it the academic experience that counts, or the practical industry experience that counts? Possibly both.
That's a good question. So before I answer that, we divide our hiring process into two different sections: responsibilities and knowledge. If you get like the minimum in both, that's good. Some candidates are really outstanding, like they are still maybe in the university or maybe recently graduated, but they know a lot. So we care about the knowledge, not like the age or how many years of experience, professional experience you have. If you can work at a high level already, you are an outstanding candidate.
Once you're in the industry, how easy is it to move between companies on the project?
How easy is it to move between companies in the games industry?
It depends on what you are doing. So if you have been doing something that is no longer used, you might be in trouble. For example, 10 years ago, we had Maya and Autodesk Max for animation. But today, you can see like 99% of animators are animating in Maya. And 3D Max is now for hard surface modeling and environment modeling. So if you keep up with the market needs and keep up with the market needs and always search for the new tech, you should easily secure a job anywhere.
Right.
Just following up on the previous conversation around skill or experience. I know in many technology organizations, there's a bit of an ageism issue happening right now where older technology employees can't find roles.
Yeah.
How do you find that in the gaming industry?
Um, it's a matter of ask and demand.
Okay.
So like if we decided to move like our technology towards a specific direction, we would prefer someone that is willing to go that direction. Um, if what you have been doing became irrelevant, that might not go with our like plan. So that's where the issue comes.
I'm not sure I quite understand that because with many languages, you always have to keep continually skilling up to the new languages that come around.
Right.
Or the
Yeah.
new tool sets that come around
Yeah.
regardless.
Mhm.
You know, you're not getting many C++ or COBOL programs nowadays.
Yep.
All of them have been upgraded to Python.
Right. Yeah.
So are you seeing a big pushback from older programmers? Older programmers to push back on learning new
Well,
languages and tools?
For me, it has never been about age. It's like it's fine if you do this or not, but if you are not following, like if it's not necessary for programming. Maybe you're a character artist and you've been doing something in a very old school way. You know what I mean? That's that's
Cranky old man.
yeah. Yeah, if someone keeps doing that stuff in an old school way, that's where we find issues. You know what I mean? But for programming, as you mentioned, there are slight changes between Python 2 and 3. It's mostly syntax and so, but you can still type the same code even if yeah. It depends on the job, you know. Mhm.
Do you know in your company what's sort of the average age?
Average age for my team, average age is 25. Yeah.
So they're mostly graduates.
We had two exceptional candidates that joined as a juniors, but one of them is a senior now. So yeah, if you are really good, you can climb easily. Yeah.
Okay.
That's why we don't care about age. It's about your knowledge and experience.
Yes, I understand. So I mean, the question would be, you know, how would an older programmer obtain the necessary skills? I mean, your graduates obviously got it from university, the traditional academic route. Maybe the question would be rooted, you know, you're now older, you want to obtain these skills. Can you think of areas or points or ways of obtaining those skills?
Yeah,
What methods would you personally use?
I have some resources here that are related to every field, like where to learn this. Yeah.
So Hossam has a list of resources that we can put in, we
That
can
sounds
publish
very useful,
afterwards.
Yeah. I mean, it's very interesting. It's different in different industries. My current employer is desperate because people are retiring and there's nobody coming on the bottom.
Yeah.
I mean, it's completely turned upside down the other way. So it must be about obtaining knowledge at the right time in the right place.
I actually want to turn around the table to say that potentially the game industry in future might have senior audience to come in to buy the games and play them, because I think these are the populations have a large amount of time on their hand that they can spend. You know, either they sit at home doing certain things. So the game design potentially need to tailor towards more senior audience in future, particularly with the aging society. You're seeing now that a lot of the countries that have China and one, you see growing population in terms of older age, that they might be interested in playing games, right? So in order to tailor towards this type of audience, you might need a little bit, you know, senior team members in the team trying to design or interact or kind of adapt, customize the game
Some of
towards
their
this kind of a
ideas.
market.
Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Can I ask, in the UK, can you give me 5, 6 examples of which companies are your favorite again in the gaming industry?
Tricky
Well, we
question.
we know which is number one.
Um,
How does Rebellion stack up against the other major
we're at,
companies?
we're
in
at
the
a
UK?
very, very good place currently. Yeah.
Number 1, number 2, number 15,
Yeah.
number 80.
Um,
The
one of the
industry,
top
what are the
three.
industry look-
One of the top three.
Okay.
Let's take a couple more questions from online, and then I think you've got another presentation to talk about.
It's a comparison.
A
Yeah.
comparison, yeah,
Mhm.
Sounds
okay.
good. Okay. It's related to employment, this one. How does Rebellion and the games industry in general expect the portfolio, your portfolio to be presented? So the examples here are YouTube or GitHub.
You can use Vimeo, you can use YouTube, you can send the video link on Google Drive, whatever you
And
want.
that actual code, would you? take
For the
stuff off
GitHub, yeah, GitHub, yeah.
Okay. Is LinkedIn relevant to recruiting in this sector?
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely.
Mhm.
Okay. Let's have a look at your comparisons, I think. next.
Right. So, I prepared this presentation because many people were asking, can I shift my knowledge from film or commercials to the game industry or vice versa? And I said, yes, easy. If you do it right, you should be able to shift your knowledge. But you need to understand the similarities and the difference between them. Oh, that's a small font. Yeah. So, film, commercials, and games, all of them use DCC packages, digital content creation software, like Maya, Max, Blender, which is free, Houdini, ZBrush, and so on. Same for commercials, same for games. This is a similarity. Use of joint-based deformation in all of them, that's another similarity. Like your rig should be simple, starting by joints. In film and commercials, we get more fancy options to enhance how our characters deform and look. In film and commercials, we can use deformers such as blend shapes and simulation. In games, it's mostly joint based. You can tweak it with blend shapes, but not all game engines support blend shapes. This is a nice one. Film can be forgiving, means you can fix it in post. If you see something that you don't like, you can always fix it in post. Same for commercial, very forgiving. You can always come back and forth. But for games, it will punish you. You have to fix it immediately because you don't have second chances to like sculpt at a certain frame or create another deformer as another layer. It's very optimized, and you need to fix it. For film, especially blockbuster movies, they use very high poly dense mesh, like high quality with a lot of vertices. Hardware hungry. You need a supercomputer to render kind of that mesh. Commercial, you can get away with average topology. In games, you need to be highly optimized. You can acquire not the same quality of film, but you can still get a good quality, but you need to optimize your assets. For film pictures, you can use UDIM. By the way, UDIM is multiple UV maps next to each other. Each one of them has a resolution of 4K or 8K, which is very high. For commercials, you can do with 2K or 1080p Full HD. For games, you can still use 4K, but you also need to optimize it. And you can also combine multiple weapons or assets together in one texture or one image. Grooming, this is related to hairstyle, or if a character like a bear has a fur, a tiger or animal like fur. We have Xgen in Maya, we have Yeti, another plugin, and of course we have Houdini. You can use the same in commercial. For games, you don't have that fancy option. You need to use a technique called hair cards. You export it's like a simple polygon with a texture of hair, and you multiply that one in order to get the hairstyle. Yeah, as I mentioned in film, we have fancy deformation like muscle system. Not sure how many of you heard about zero dynamics. Anyone? Okay. Yeah, they create realistic anatomical muscle simulation for their characters and creatures. Um, Actually, that picture of the event is one of these assets. You saw like that muscle anatomical factor. That was a koala, by the way. We have the same for commercials. By the way, if you notice, film and commercials are very, very similar to each other. Commercials are slightly less quality. In games, we can use AI to enhance our deformation, or a technology called SSDR, smooth skinning decomposition with rigid bones. That was a research back in SIGGRAPH 2012. This essentially any kind of deformation, like a simulation, a flag simulation, or so, can be converted into joint based. It will not be a simulation anymore. It can be converted into joints. Camera space. That's a funny one. Before we talk about this one, I'll show you a picture. This one. Encanto movie. In film and commercial, you don't care about the 3D world. You only care about what the camera sees here. That is the final result. While in reality, that's what the artist did. So yeah, in order to get the correct camera focal length, they did that. You cannot do that in game. But yeah, that's what they did in Encanto. Move back. Yeah. So camera perspective animation is 2D. Same for commercials. You care about the final image, like it's exported as a video, and yeah, you can only see it in 2D. While games, you always see your character in 3D space. You can rotate around the character, rotate the camera. So yeah, you need to care about the 3D space. Your hardware is the limit. You can do whatever you want, as long as your hardware supports it. Same for commercial. But in games, you need to optimize memory, GPU, and CPU, especially if you try to ship that to other consoles like Xbox and so on. Yeah. Ability to refine and sculpt the frame, as I mentioned, fix it in both. You can always do this. I don't like that frame or that second of the movie. I can refine it. You cannot do that in games. But we have other techniques like PSP, pose space deformation, or RBF, radial basis function solvers to derive vector joints. Can be rendered offline or real time. You can render offline using V-Ray. Has anyone used V-Ray? Okay, yeah. We or you can also render it in engine. Some productions are now using game engines to render their commercials or film. So yeah, you can do it both um, offline by using a render engine like V-Ray, or you can do it real time by using game engines like Unreal Engine 5. Same here, but here it's only rendered at real time using the game engine. Physics result can be refined. Here, physics result can be refined. Here in game engine, physics results are only acquired by the rules defined in your game engine. You cannot tweak it much. Of course, you can tweak it per character, but the rules are always the same. While in like film and commercial, you can play a lot. I'll tell you a funny story. I was working on that was in 2017. I was working on a simulation of a church, and in Maya we have templates or presets like cloth, silk, rubber. My simulation didn't look really good unless I made it concrete. So it's not so accurate, it's not realistic, but as long as it looks fine, it's fine. It's not concrete, but it looks fine. So yeah, you have more freedom here in commercial and film, but in game engine, you are more realistic. Use the mocap, motion capture. You can do that in all of them by using Rococo or Xsense. These are the most well-known tools. Keyframe animation can be assisted by AI like Cascadeur. There is a software using AI to assist animators called Cascadeur. I recommend you have a look at this one. That one is really, really amazing. You can do the same here. In game engine, we have a different tech called physics-based animation, which look more realistic, especially when the character is turning while running. It's not like this, but there is a weight in the motion, a realistic weight. You can use VFX, like we have discussed before, smoke, fire, destruction, any of that. But not the facts. But this is called vertex animation texture. This is a technique used in games to export an image as an asset. I'll show you this here. Yeah. So you can create this in game engine out of an image. That image contains complex data that gets calculated and moved to deform vertices. And when these vertices are deformed based on the values of that texture, it will animate that object. Yeah. And yeah, I guess that's the end of it. Do we have any questions related to the difference and similarities between them?
Hey, on back there.
Okay.
So for your type of role, you need to understand all these skills. If you want to do the full data.
Not to be like, of course, people who do this every day are better than me, but I have a basic understanding to talk the same language as them when they request something or need help with something.
For example, say a video game has a cutscene, like an in-engine cutscene.
Yeah.
Would you say at that point the sort of it becomes a bit more similar to how films are produced in terms of like the sort of the picture of encounter where you know you can kind of focus a little more on what the camera in the cutscene is focusing on, since at that point it's not necessarily in the control of the player.
You still cannot do this in games, like you cannot mangle limbs in order to get the desired results, but they are different. There are two ways of doing it. The first one is pre-render. You can render that scene and play it in your game, whatever you like. If the character will not change or change clothes, but if you, for example, have the option to change your hat, change your shirt, this needs to be rendered every time using this specific clause in the engine. And in order to do that, we have two ways. You can use the same asset that is used in the game if you don't care too much about the quality of the cutscenes. If you want your cutscene to look better than the game, and I believe you have noticed this before, when a game moves to a certain cutscenes, the quality gets higher. Yeah. Yeah, so they start using a duplicate asset, but with higher quality only for this specific cutscene. They cannot do that in the game all the time, otherwise it will run slow. They can use it only temporarily for the cutscene.
What you've said, are the skill sets for the gamers then quite different to the skill sets for commercial and film?
They are all the same. You will learn everything here, but you only need to know the limitations of the engine if you are looking forward to move your experience from film to games, and vice versa. If you are currently working in games, you need to know other fancy options that you can use to make your assets look better.
But it is possible to move between.
Very easy
the three.
if you know the difference between them. Yeah. That's why I don't
Probably
like.
wouldn't be for me.
That's why I don't like when companies disqualify a candidate because they don't have or didn't show enough game industry experience. You can easily shift that experience. It's not a big deal.
In the middle.
How much outsourcing goes for Rebellion do?
We used to do that a lot, but now it's very minimal.
Okay.
Yeah. And of course, it also depends on whether everyone is busy or they have time. If we don't have the capacity to finish these assets, we might hire
Would
someone.
it easier to do it in-house than outsource the thing?
It's a matter of going back and forth and
Yeah.
feedback. Sometimes this takes more time than if we did it in-house in like a few hours.
Okay.
Yeah. You need to work with a company that understands very well what you are doing
Sure.
and you have worked before. Otherwise, you will waste your time.
And you're very keen to have one, and I'll take one from
Very
online.
quick question. You see more people move from this side to that side, i.e. from film to commercial games or the other way around.
I did everything, like kept moving from this to this thing. So yeah. But I see many people are now interested in joining the game industry.
In the gaming industry is bigger
Yeah.
than the movie industry.
Depends on the country.
Well,
Yeah, in
globally,
Egypt,
I think it is.
in Egypt, the film industry is much bigger. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think globally, it's the
Yeah.
gaming is
Yeah,
overtaking
exactly.
movies.
It's certainly very important in the UK.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, if you have one online.
There's one nuts and bolts question that I think we touched on earlier, but I'd like to clarify. A couple of people are asking, is C++ a dying language?
Never. Never. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I just sort of remembered that, sort of found out quite recently that Rebellion actually has a film studio.
They've got film studio, yeah.
Yeah, is there much of a sort of overlap between the department of the film studio and the department that works on games? Or
So currently we only use it for motion capture. We have a very big motion capture studio there. We don't work closely with the film team, like they have their own team. But for my team, if we want to go there, it's for a mocap shoot.
Sure. Thank you.
I'll take one last question.
You obviously talking about production of the current game. Do you have a team whose job it is trying to figure out what the next big thing might be, something to get out of the industry, and what kind of makeup of people do you?
Is it related to research and development or?
Yeah, to actually try and figure out to produce a new game in an area that hasn't been.
That's not my area. Like maybe for production they can do this, but for me, I'm assigned to a certain project, and yeah.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Hossam. That's
Thank
been
you,
a
Simon.
fascinating insight into what I think, well, for me has been a
Right.
bit of a
yeah.
mystery area. I think there are people in the room who know a little bit
I can
more.
show now
but-
the resources.
Yes, we have a list of resources, and we will, with
Can
your
please,
agreement, I've got to find it. We can put that on the on our web pages. So there we are. There is a list of development resources, YouTube channels for various tools and so on.
and recommended courses. So for every field, like the field that we explained earlier.
Yeah.
This will get you at a very good spot. Like you can easily secure a job if you follow these resources.
Yes, we'll put the recording for this onto YouTube. The sources we'll work out how we're going to do that, but we have an archive section on our website which includes all of the previous talks, and we can find a way to put that in there.
So here we have rigging in Maya, which is part of techni-artistic. We have general Maya because Maya is the industry standard now. Every company uses Maya. We have ZBrush. This is for any character artist who likes sculpting. Yeah, more resources about character art, materials and texturing. Animation, of course, the 12 principles of animation by Disney. Programming, Python specific. We also have C++ specific, audio, QA, modeling and hard surface, which is related to environment art. Concept art. This is for both character and environment, I believe. Yeah, a long list. Production. Jira for tracking time and tasks. Automation. Unreal Engine. Unity. Blender. Many students start with Blender because it's free and they don't have access to Maya. So they can also shift their knowledge from Blender to Maya. Houdini for wizards. Most of VFX artists work in Houdini. I recommend following these people. Of course, Rafael Grassetti, the creator of God of War character, and how he created that character. Someone like Rohan Dalvi, best channel on YouTube for Houdini. Cult of Rig, very, very good website for riggers. Ask a Rigger, that is a Discord channel. You can ask for help or someone to explain to you. Perry is one of the best instructors for tech anim. Rigging Dojo, they are specialized in C++ and Python courses for Maya, especially if you want to create custom plugins. Anime School for animation, GDC Vault, big talks, very, very advanced talks here. And yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you all for coming.